An identity document is any document which may be used to identify a person or verify aspects of a person's personal identity. If issued in a small, standard credit card-size form, it is usually called an identity card. Some countries issue formal identity documents, while others may require identity verification using informal documents. When the identity document incorporates a person's photograph, it may be called photo ID. In the absence of a formal identity document, a driver's license may be accepted in many countries for identity verification. Some countries do not accept driver's licenses for identification, often because in those countries they do not expire as documents and can be old or easily forged. Most countries accept passports as a form of identification. Some countries require foreigners to have a passport or occasionally a national identity card from their country available at any time if they do not have a residence permit in the country. The personal information present on the identity document, or in a supporting database, might include the bearer's full name, a portrait photo, age, birth date, address, an identification number, profession or rank, religion, ethnic or racial classification, restrictions, and citizenship status. History. A version of the passport considered to be the earliest identity document inscribed into law was introduced by King Henry V of England with the Safe Conducts Act 1414. For the next 500 years and before World War I, most people did not have or need an identity document. Photographic identification appeared in 1876, but it did not become widely used until the early 20th century when photographs became part of passports and other ID documents such as driver's licenses, all of which came to be referred to as photo IDs. Both Australia and Great Britain, for example, introduced the requirement for a photographic passport in 1915 after the so-called Lodi spy scandal. The shape and size of identity cards were standardized in 1985 by ISO, IEC 7810. Some modern identity documents are smart cards, including a difficult-to-forge embedded integrated circuit that were standardized in 1988 by ISO, IEC 7816. New technologies allow identity cards to contain biometric information, such as photographs, face, hand or iris measurements, or fingerprints. Electronic identity cards are already available in countries including Belgium, Estonia, Finland, Guatemala, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Morocco, Portugal and Spain. Adoption of identity cards. The universal adoption of identity cards is supported by law enforcement officials who claim that it makes surveillance and identification of criminals easier. However, concern is also expressed about the extensive cost and potential abuse of high-tech smart cards. In many countries and especially English-speaking countries such as Australia, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, the United Kingdom and the United States, government-issued compulsory identity cards, or, more precisely, their centralized database, are a source of debate as they are regarded as an infringement of privacy and civil liberties. Most criticism is directed towards the enhanced possibilities of extensive abuse of centralized and comprehensive databases storing sensitive data. A 2006 survey of UK Open University students concluded that the planned compulsory identity card under the Identity Cards Act 2006, coupled with a central government database, generated the most negative attitudinal response among several alternative configurations. None of the countries listed above mandate possession of identity documents. Arguments for identity documents as such. In order to avoid mismatching people, and to fight fraud, there should be a way, as securely as possible, to prove a person's identity. Every human being already carries one's own personal identification in the form of one's DNA, which is extremely hard to falsify or to discard. Even for non-state commercial and private interactions, this may shortly become the preferred identifier, rendering a state-issued identity card a lesser evil than the potentially extensive privacy risks associated with everyday use of a person's genetic profile for identification purposes. Arguments for national identity documents. If using only private alternatives, such as ID cards issued by banks, the inherent lack of consistency regarding issuance policies can lead to downstream problems. For example, in Sweden, private companies such as banks refuse to issue ID cards to individuals without a Swedish card. This forced the government to start issuing national cards. Arguments against identity documents as such. The development and administration costs of an identity card system can be very high. Figures from £30 to £90 or even higher have been suggested for the proposed UK ID card. This, however, does not disclose true cost of issuing ID cards, as some additional portion may be borne by taxpayers in general. Arguments against national identity documents. Rather than relying on government-issued ID cards, federal policy has the alternative to encourage the variety of identification systems that exist in the private marketplace today. Arguments against overuse or abuse of identity documents. Cards reliant on a centralized database can be used to track anyone's physical movements and private life, thus infringing on personal freedom and privacy. The proposed British ID card proposes a series of linked databases managed by private sector firms. The management of disparate linked systems across a range of institutions and any number of personnel is alleged to be a security disaster in the making. If religion or ethnicity is registered on mandatory ID documents, this data can enable racial profiling.